Just as BP slows the leak in the Gulf, could a massive underwater oil cloud endanger coastal waters? Congress continues to investigate the spill, why Homeland Security is now discussing what went wrong. And one more coal mine explosion, this time in Turkey. More than 30 workers are trapped.
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
Good afternoon, I'm Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for the Energy Report. After weeks of failed attempts, BP has finally made progress in slowing the massive oil leak from a ruptured well. The company is using a mile-long tube to siphon oil to a tanker ship on the surface. After several setbacks, engineers did succeed on Sunday in getting the tube into this 21-inch pipe.
This attempt is about containing the flow and keeping it from getting onto the sea, and it's making some progress. And what we'll continue to do over the next 24 hours is try to increase that rate and capture more and more of that flow. And later this week, hopefully before the end of the week, we'll make our next attempt to actually stop the flow, and that's going to be this option we're referring to as top kill.
BP estimates it's funneling about 1/5 of the crude gushing into the Gulf every day. But nearly a month after the explosion, millions of gallons of crude are already in the water. Scientists have found massive plumes of oil some hundreds of feet below the surface. The biggest is 10 miles long, 4 miles wide. The oil clouds are toxic and drawing oxygen from the water. Jim Ruler, senior energy meteorologist at Planalytics, tells Clean Skies News this massive underwater oil slick is about 100 miles from the loop current, and there's a real concern that if it enters that current, it could be carried through the Florida Keys into the Gulf Stream and up the east coast of Florida. For now, weather patterns are keeping the oil offshore and away from that loop. That could change later this week, though, when winds are likely to blow oil toward the shore. Ruler says refineries from Louisiana to Pensacola are on alert and may have to shut down. This afternoon, the Obama administration is giving its first congressional testimony on the Gulf spill. Homeland Security Director Janet Napolitano is appearing before senators. Among her comments to the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, a joint statement from her and Interior Secretary Ken Salazar: "We will not rest until BP permanently seals the wellhead, the spill is cleaned up, and the communities and natural resources of the Gulf Coast are restored and made whole." Napolitano also explained why her department is taking jurisdiction.
DHS, as you noted, is the principal coordinating agency. I believe this may be the first time that HSPD 5, Homeland Security Presidential Directive 5, has actually been overlaid on the national response framework, enabling us to coordinate across the many federal agencies and to do the interagency consultation and involvement necessary for this spill.
Tomorrow brings a full day of Senate hearings on the Gulf disaster. The leaders of EPA, the U.S. Coast Guard, and NOAA are all scheduled to testify. But Interior Secretary Salazar will have the busiest day, appearing before a pair of committees. While the Gulf oil spill has put a microscope on offshore issues, the Interior Department is announcing changes in the way the Bureau of Land Management handles onshore leases. Secretary Salazar says the rules, first proposed in January, will improve environmental protection and make for a more orderly leasing process. The new rules call for more detailed reviews on potential lease sales and more public participation in master leasing and development plans. They also toughen requirements for streamlining the review process. 32 workers are trapped underground after an explosion in a major coal mine in northern Turkey, the third mine accident there in the past 6 months. Rescue crews say nothing's been heard from the workers since the blast happened at the Caradon mine near the Black Sea. So far, no word as to what caused the blast in February. A methane gas explosion collapsed an underground chamber in a coal mine in northwestern Turkey, killing 13 workers. In December, a similar accident killed 19 miners in the Bursa province. Meanwhile, the Mine Safety and Health Administration wants a judge to dismiss a lawsuit over how it's interviewing witnesses in the West Virginia coal mine explosion that killed 29 men. MSHA argues the U.S. District Court in Charleston lacks the jurisdiction in the case raised by the United Mine Workers of America and the families of 2 dead miners. UMW wants to observe private interviews, but MSHA Director Joe Main says they have no legal foundation for that demand. MSHA argues a combination of private interviews and public meetings will protect the integrity of the investigation and the confidentiality of witnesses. The cause of that April 5th blast at Massey Energy's Upper Big Branch mine is still under investigation. It's official, the new UN climate chief is Christiana Figueres. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said today Figueres will replace Evo de Boer, who's stepping down July 1st. Figueres, whose father served as president of Costa Rica 3 times, has been a member of the country's negotiating team on climate change since 1995 and has frequently chaired negotiations. The Cape Wind project has cleared one more hurdle. The FAA ruled today the 130 offshore turbines planned for Nantucket Sound pose no threat to aircraft, provided they are properly marked and lighted. That decision comes a month after Interior Secretary Ken Salazar gave his approval to the first-in-the-nation wind farm. Opponents have until June 16th to challenge the FAA ruling and request a review of the decision. The study analyzed any effect the turbines might have on planes departing or arriving at public airports, military airports, or other aeronautical facilities in the region. Let's take a look now at some energy goings-on around the Beltway tomorrow. At 11, the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee gets testimony in Russell from the administration on issues related to offshore oil and gas exploration. Clean Skies News will be there. And at 2:30, Senator Barbara Boxer convenes the full Senate EPW committee in Dirksen to examine the federal response to the spill. Clean Skies News will attend that event. And tomorrow kicks off day 1 of the 12th Annual Electric Power Conference and Expo in the Baltimore Convention Center, featuring panels on nuclear, gas, renewable, and coal projects. That's the Energy Report. We'll see you again tomorrow with your latest energy news. For any suggestions or comments about our programming here on Clean Skies News, we want to hear from you. You can email us at contact@cleanskies.com. We're also on Twitter and Facebook too. From all of us here in the Energy News Center, good night.